what about working in multiple states? Is
Mhm.
there something different about physicians who work in multiple states as far as their taxes? And I imagine that maybe state taxes they would have to handle a certain way. What do you think about that?
Usually, there's not anything you have to do differently. Um, and it depends upon if you're doing, let's say, telemedicine versus you're physically working in another state. So, in general, whatever state you have residency in, that's where your S corp or your business is going to be registered. So you're going to form. Let's say you live in Georgia, you're going to form your S corp, your LLC, and elect S in the state of Georgia. Let's say you do 50% of your work in Alabama, 50% physically in Alabama. Well, then you're going to have to pay Alabama taxes. But states have a system where one state will give you tax credits because you paid money to another state for income earned in that state. So in that situation, you're going to have to pay some estimated tax payments to Alabama. In terms of what you think your CPA can advise you on that, and then you're going to pay personal income tax in Georgia. If you work let's say you live in Florida where there's no income tax, but you work across the border in Georgia where there is. Well, unfortunately, you're going to be paying Georgia income taxes. Um, you can't get away with not paying state taxes because you live in a no income tax state. Wherever the money is made, that's who's going to tax it. Similarly, if you live in, let's say, New York, but you work in Texas, you're going to have to pay New York personal income taxes, even though you're working in a no income tax state, because the government wants its hand in your pocket.
Right.
And that's just, it doesn't work in your favor. But the only real thing that would change for your S corporation, let's say you had your S corp in Georgia, you live in Georgia, but you do all of your work in Alabama. Well, in that situation, you're probably going to have to register your S corp additionally in Alabama so that you can open withholding accounts to pay taxes in Alabama, because you're going to owe all of your income taxes to the state in a different state than you're in. So, but that's a very kind of special nuance, um, that doesn't affect 95+% of physicians working in multiple states.
Right. Right. And this is something that your CPA would handle for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any competent CPA should know what to do with
Right.
that.
I imagine that if you're working, if you're working in multiple states, say um, I've heard that sometimes if you work in multiple states, one of the states takes more money out, and then maybe another one takes a certain amount of money out, but then you may get a refund from one state versus another because
Right.
they think that I guess they're taking it out as if you're a resident. Is this something you've heard of?
Yeah. So every state has different ways of kind of handling that sort of issue. Um, Most states have kind of like a credit system where you get credits, and so you pay one state and you get a credit for your other state. There's a handful of states that are a little more complicated, but in general, you should not be being double taxed, right?
Right.
You should only be taxed once by one state. And I have had clients that have run into states that are trying to grasp into their wallet and take more than they should be. And then we have to, push back against that and say, no, file grievances and abatements and, deal with it. But
Right.
again, that's something you want a competent CPA to should know how to deal with.